Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's the Red Hot Mic. I'm your host, G. Alpha Palmer. Come on in this house. Come on in this house. We're getting ready to get started. We're on several platforms tonight. We're on StreamYard, and I did send out the link. We're also on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, all at the same time. Come on in. Let's do this. All right. Woo! Come on. Come on. All right. It's the Red Hot Mic. Come on. Yeah. Come on in this house. We got some things to talk about. I'm looking forward to it. Things are starting to come together. Except for my lion here. Let's line him up. All right. Let's see. Do we need this light? I think so. I know you can't see my eyes as well, but that's okay. Come on. Hey, come on. Woo. Come on.
Power on. Bluetooth mode.
Cheers. Here's to you and all that's best of you and in you. Cheers. Pomegranate juice, a good antioxidant. All right. All right. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming in. We got some things to talk about tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to be before you long, but I'm going to be before you for a little while. Okay. I'm excited about it. And I hope you are too, because we're going to talk about some things that I think that are very, very important. And I'm fulfilling a promise that I made during our last broadcast. I said that I would pick up from the last broadcast and that I would talk about a particular subject that I think that's really, really important. Now, what I want to say is this, and I need to put my glasses on. Let me put my glasses on. What I want to say to you is that why we do what we do here is because of the importance of several things. But in the context of this particular channel, what's important is relationship. At least that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with the importance of relationship, and relationship as we address what we're experiencing in our culture, not only our culture, but cultures around the world. We're experiencing the gender wars, where it's getting more and more difficult to establish and maintain relationship. And so I've decided to add my voice to the mix as far as content creator to address some issues around several different areas. But this particular area of relationship plays a very critical role in another area that I'm going to be dealing with. Let me get rid of the music. And I think it's important that not only that we deal with this topic here, but this topic is connected to a bigger topic that I want to address, and that's going to be addressed on another station. We have 3 stations that we're connected with, and I'm excited about what we are starting to do. It's been a process, and I've listened to and been a part of a lot of podcasts and live streams to hear some of the creators express some of the difficulty it is to make this happen. And I have to admit to you that I've been doing this for about a year now, and there has been trying times. But what I'm excited about is that even with the trying times, I'm still here, and looking forward, to sharing with you my heart, my vision, and hopefully it'll be something that builds you up. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm only here for certain people. Not everyone. I'm not going to be a voice that everyone's going to hear. And that's fine. I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but which one of us is? None of us are everyone's cup of tea. But what we have to do is we have to focus and put blinders on like a horse within the Kentucky Derby. We have to put on blinders and run our race. And that's the important thing that I purpose to do, is to put on my blinders and run my race. My race is to help people to find focus and bring into fruition their individual purpose. But to do that, I have to lay some groundwork, and that's what this channel is for, is to lay groundwork. And the groundwork that's to be laid is more or less in the area of psychology, biology, some of the scientific modalities and sciences that are a part of our experience. And so it's important that I set apart this station. Now, the other station is Purpose Sphere. Purpose Sphere is a sphere that is basically dedicated totally to purpose and identifying and discussing how to find focus and bring into fruition individual purpose. So we're going to be talking more about that as we go along. I'm excited about the whole notion of being here with you. I know that you can't despise the day of small starts. Things start small. There's going to be trying times, and I think a lot of times what the universe is trying to see is how serious are you about what you say you want to do, to press through the trying times, to continue onward, even though it may seem difficult at times, arduous, tense, and sometimes it feels like, man, let's just forget it. But you don't, because there is something that you're supposed to do. You're built for it. You're built for this. You're built for this. And whatever this is for you, you are built for it, designed. You have a design, a mission, and an assignment to do it. And so to get about it and be about it is critical for you right now. And it's not going to be easy. If it was, everyone would be doing it. But you have something that you're supposed to do. You have a voice. You're not an echo. There are plenty of people who are echoing. I know for me, I have to see how some people are doing some things. And as a result, I begin to use some of the ideas, but to begin to shape and form my own. And so I'm moving forward, and there's going to be some differences that you're going to see. I'm going to implement a little bit more of my personality as time goes on. I love music, so as time goes on, we're going to have a lot of music. One of the things I will ask you to do is to depending on what platform you're on, if you are on YouTube, would you share, click, and like, or hit the notification bell? I would appreciate it. That would help me to move forward, because my goal is to help build and not tear down. I'm not trying to speak to anyone but to those that would hear my voice. See, there's a difference between hearing and listening, and some listen to just get you to listen long enough to get you to be quiet so that they can refute what you're saying. But to hear something is to hear it with your whole being, your physical body, your intellect, your emotions, and with your spirit. And so it becomes imperative that you hear. And not everyone is going to be designed to hear what I'm going to say. But I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to those that have an ear to hear what I would say to them. And so I'm excited, really excited. So let's get to it. You see the thumbnail. You see the topic. The topic is about masculinity. We wanted to help define masculinity, and it's going to be different than what I've listened to a lot of people talk about masculinity. Some very insightful and very enriching. I think my spin is going to be a little bit different, and so I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that I can articulate. Again, this is a new form for me. as a professor, I've spoken in front of people, but at the same time, I haven't done this on a consistent basis to get myself used to it. But as I continue to do it, I'll get used to it. But this particular broadcast is critical, and it kind of dovetails off of the last broadcast, because I had said in the last broadcast that I would be picking up from this place, and I'm checking the mic to make sure the mic is on. You have to look around and make sure everything's working. But my last broadcast, I said that I was going to speak concerning masculine or masculinity and femininity. And I want to hold myself accountable to that, because it is a very important topic. And I think this topic is something that is critical to relationship. Because what happens is not only relationship, but human development. Those are two aspects that we're going to be really concentrating here: relationship and human development, because that's the problem within our relationships. We're getting together with people who are not developed in the same fashion or same way that we are, or at the same place we are, and they have a different idea of what relationship is. And so I'm going to touch upon both of those very briefly in this particular session. So I need to say this. This particular platform or station or channel is, what can I say? It's intended to address things from a scientific, data-driven, and information kind of perspective. I have another station that's really more philosophical. It's more psychological. It's more theoretical and theological. But this particular topic that I'm going to be dealing with is going to kind of intersect and probably touch upon those areas, as in philosophic, psychological, and theological. So those are three areas that it's going to touch upon. But at the same token, we want to still, as much as possible, deal with that on the other channel as opposed to on this one. But because I said I was going to do what I'm going to do tonight, there's going to have to be that crossover a little bit. Again, this is not the original intention for this particular channel, but we're going to address and be faithful to what we said we're going to do. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about masculinity tonight. Next broadcast, we'll talk about femininity. Now, it's important that we understand, in defining masculinity and understanding some things, some important information about it. The first thing that I think is important to understand is to know what masculinity is not. What masculinity is not. Now, this is important because when we look at masculinity, what we're seeing today that is being labeled as masculinity really is not masculinity. What we're seeing today actually is more in line with what we would call misogyny and it's chauvinistic. Now, these two concepts, being chauvinistic and a misogynist, they restrict. Here's why this is not masculinity. Masculinity does not do these things, but misogyny and being a chauvinist restricts the aim and narrows the scope in identifying the critical nature of what both genders equally bring to the table and share with humanity. So what am I saying? I'm saying it's important that we understand that masculinity is not being a chauvinist, nor is it a misogynist. Neither one of those. And it's important that we delineate the differences and separate them, because those two terms, misogyny and being a chauvinist, restrict, they limit intentionally and with aim, they limit the scope of what our unity and need for one another, and makes one more dependent on the other. And that's not what we want to do. But we have to understand that there is some need that one has on the other, and there's some need that the other has on the other, but they're not the same. I always use the term that we're equal, but not the same. We're equal, but not the same. So being equal and but not the same doesn't mean that we can go it alone. No, we can't, because we have need of the other to fulfill the quotient. Okay? We have the need of each other. All right, so what masculinity is not, it is not misogyny, and it's not being a chauvinist. That's important to understand. And if you think that that there is any close relationship between the two, you don't really understand what masculinity is. You don't know what it really is. So, what it's not, what masculinity is not. So, if we're going to tell you what it's not, it's critical that now we tell you what it is. Okay? What masculinity is it's a design. Now, when we talk about masculinity, here's where we're going to bring some of the philosophical into the picture. Before, there's pre-birth and post-birth masculinity. Excuse me, I'll say it again. There's pre-birth and post-birth masculinity. Now, I've heard some people say that you are born with both masculinity and femininity. I don't hold that premise. I believe that masculinity is 100% masculinity. Femininity is 100% femininity. And it's because of that we need each other, because we lack the very thing that the other provides. Equal, but different. So when we talk about masculinity, when we talk about pre-birth masculinity is designed to insert, it's designed to be directive, it's designed to be assertive, it's designed to inject, it's designed to penetrate. This has nothing to do with gender. This is the essence of masculinity. This is what masculinity is. Masculinity looks to insert, it looks to inject, it looks to assert, and it looks to penetrate. It also looks to direct. Now, what we have a tendency to think is, some would say that because they don't understand these principles of masculinity, they think that masculinity is toxic, negative, again, misogynistic or chauvinistic. But it's important to understand what masculinity brings to the table. These are some of the things that it brings, and it's important to understand that it brings those things in and of itself, and it cannot be equaled by anything else. It's a matter of universal design. It's a matter of creativity. It's a matter of creator design. Okay. Masculinity calls for the design and the ability. See, here's what's important. It calls for both the design. See, the design of something is how it's made up, how it's put together. If masculinity is a putting together of something in a specific order, containing certain aspects necessary for its fulfillment. Excuse me. So masculinity calls for the design and ability. Not only do you have to have the design, but you have to have the ability, the innate ability, not manufactured, not something that had to be added later, but something that is innately designed. And the ability is innate to, again, inject, penetrate, insert, plant, and to pierce. Those are very, very invasive kinds of principles. Not everyone is built to that design. And it's important that masculinity brings those particular concepts, those particular designs and abilities, because without them, there can be no furtherance of humanity. Okay? Now, if an individual by design is unable to do the things that I just mentioned above, inject, penetrate, insert, plant, or pierce, if they don't have it innately to do, they may acquire these similarities through some other means, or they may have acquired them, and I like to call it masculine traits that develop over time through observation and rehearsal. This is how they learn these particular aspects of these ideas, even though they cannot fully implement them. They will try to use and to get as close as they can to imitating these abilities, but innately they do not have these abilities. Okay. Again, masculinity is not gender in its origin. Masculinity has no gender pre-birth. It is energy. It is essence. It is spirit. Pre-birth. And because of that, there is no physiological makeup. Now, why did I preface it with that? Because it's because masculinity before pre-birth, it is pure mindful energy, pure essence, pure spirit. Now, this essence, this energy proceeds from a mindfulness, and that mindfulness, understand mindfulness. Mindfulness means to be full of mind. It's the act of being continuously full of mind. Now, that's the universe. Or as some would say, that's God. God is the only, or the creator is the only one who has the ability to have a mindfulness of everything that ever was, is, or will be. The mindfulness of the Creator, has standard operating procedures for everything, has the manual for proper operation for everything all at the same time. So the mindfulness indicates that there is a mind. And if there's a mind that creates, then there has to be a creator. Now, the creator is beyond anything that you and I could even consider, because it's much higher than our thoughts or what we could possibly think as being the creator. But at the same token, we have to recognize that there is a creator, because that is the source from which everything comes. Because again, mindfulness, that includes us, right? We're a part of that mindfulness. And part of that mindfulness was manufactured, or I better say, it's better said to be created by the Creator before we were born. So that says this: you're not an accident. You're an intentional idea from the mindfulness of the universe. Whew. You're an intentional idea from the mindfulness of the universe to complete and to do something that only you can do. But it has to come in a certain package. Now, we talked about pre-birth, masculinity, and we defined what it is to insert and to penetrate and to plant and to pierce. And that's pre. But what we have to understand is everything that comes into this realm has to pass a test. And the test is whether it's legal, scientific, okay? Because once we talk about scientific, now we're bringing in the sciences like psychology, biology, okay? Okay, we're bringing in physiology, okay? We're bringing in the sciences, because the sciences are what causes this realm to operate. Everything operates by scientific method in this realm. Whether we know what that method is or not, everything operates by that method. But it has to come. See, nothing can come. It's unlawful for anything to come into this realm without a body. Everything has to have a body. I know what religions say. Some religions would tell you that there's a devil and the devil was cast down and this, that. The bottom line is this: everything that comes must have a body. Anything else is unlawful, illegal, and not permitted. Okay? So if that's the case, we've got to understand that this energy, which is foundationally the vitality, the liveliness, and the very spirit necessary for us for sustainability here on this earth, and it comes now and it has to pass the test of being able to be legal, lawful, right? And part of that is, to be lawful, it has to have a body. Now, so what we're saying is masculinity had to traverse into this realm, but it had to come in a package, and it had to come in a body. And this body that it came in is a boy. It is a boy. It's not a male. It's a boy. And you can continually hear me say that none of us came here as males and females. We came here as boys and girls. When you were in the crib, in the hospital, in the nursery, the sign above your crib said boy or girl. It was a blue color blanket or a pink colored blanket that did not designate male or female, but boy or girl. Okay? That's critically important. So now, this masculine energy is now traversed into this realm. And in order for it to operate, it must have what we said. It must be able to lawfully, legally, and scientifically operate and function in this realm. Now, so to operate in this realm, we got to have a body. Now, it's important that even the creator won't violate that. The creator won't violate it. Because if the creator violated that, then everything would fall apart. So the creator has to maintain order. Scientific method is order. Okay. Lawfulness is rightfulness, correctness. And legal is that which has the right to function. So you have to have it. So we have to be, so when us coming here is scientifically, lawfully, and legally necessary. So by virtue of you being here, you're not an accident. You've passed every test. And because you've passed every test, you have a right to be here and to express that which was given to you, assigned to you and me from the very beginning, pre-birth. Okay? Now, these characteristics of energy get clothed as qualities or characteristics within the assigned gender that can best live out the energy through purpose, design, mission, and assignment. In other words, this, when we traverse and came into this physical body, we have qualities. We're not aware of them yet because we're still boys and girls, but masculinity has brought with it certain qualities. Even though we come here as a boy and girl and we have a blank slate, but our CPU has information. Our CPU has information. And that information, that CPU is our masculinity or femininity. And it has in it those principles that I outlined for masculinity. And these principles now become qualities that are assigned within innately the gender boy in the idea of masculinity. Okay, so these qualities carry the energy of masculinity from pre-birth. Now, we're talking about post-birth. Okay? Post-birth, let me say this first. Because this masculine energy that's carried by gender is assigned, it's not by choice nor by desire. So if by design one cannot carry seed, inject, penetrate, pierce, insert, or plant, then they are not and do not possess masculine energy nor masculine gender. Now, everything comes to this planet as there's two, bipolar. There's two, or I should say not bipolar, uh, binary. I'm thinking of something else. Binary. There's two binary genders. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the ins and outs because I can, but that would take too much time and it would take me off of focus of where I'm at. And possibly we can go into that as we go along. But here's what's important. Once we come here and our CPU brings us here, there is those qualities that we just outlined that are in the CPU. Now, as we continue to develop, now here's the important piece about masculinity. Masculinity needs a role model. After birth, needs a role model of like build that it can emulate from. For instance, when we start talking about masculinity, a son needs a father. When a father goes to the bathroom and the son follows the father and sees how the father goes to the bathroom relative to the difference between a man and a woman, and he sees the same equipment that he has, there becomes a kindred, a connection between the two. And as a result, the son begins to model himself after the father. But when there is no father in the home, and that same boy follows his mother to the bathroom, and he sees that rather than doing what men do, stand up to go to the bathroom, she sits to go to the bathroom. She doesn't have the same parts as he does. There's confusion. And he thinks, now I must sit as opposed to stand. Those are critical. Those are just examples. I don't mean to gross you out or anything like that, but I want to paint a picture for you very distinctly about the importance of role modeling and parenting. A child is not meant to parent themselves. They need a role model. Well, my child has an affinity, has a leaning, and has a liking to do such and such. Well, your child may want to play in traffic on the interstate, but do you let them? Because that's what they want to do. No, because as a parent, you know that that's dangerous. But what we think is some of the most mundane, some of the least threatening, seemingly things that a child could do can really cause problems for them psychologically, emotionally, mentally, cognitively, philosophically. And so it's important that as a parent, we parent our children and not let our children do whatever they want. Son, that's not what boys do. See, this is what daddy's telling you. This is what boys do. Boys don't do that. Boys do this. This is called parenting. Oh, we're not. We're restricting a child. No, you're training up a child. You're disciplining a child. You're teaching a child in the way that they need to go to be productive in this realm. Now, I know some folks will have some problems with some of that. But if you have a problem with that, I'm not talking to you. I'm really not. I'm not here to convince. I'm here to declare. I'm a trumpet. I am a voice, not an echo, nor parrot. So yes, it is important that I declare these things. And this is not any religious. No, I'm not on a religious kick. I've come out of religion a long, long time ago. This is about spirit. Spirit is the very essence of all things. All things. So it becomes critically important to understand that the role of masculinity is critically important. Now, I want to go into some important characteristics. I want to talk about masculinity in gender build. What we're seeing now in a lot of the males, we see a lack of physicality, a lack of physical presence. They're thinner than females. And if it came down to it, I think she could whoop you. I really do. Because she outweighs you by 75 pounds. She goes to the gym and you're busy doing whatever it is that you're doing. There has to be a masculine presence. Masculine presence includes some things that I want to talk about, but I want you to understand that what I'm going to mention are things about the build, the masculine build, and they are types and shadows and metaphorically representative of what masculinity needs to be in this time and in where we live. Okay. The first thing that I want you to understand about masculine men, is that we have wide feet, big feet, much bigger than women that, well, some, but the idea is that we have wide feet. Why is this important? Wide feet is a type of shadow of our footedness, our sureness of footing, stability, able to be stable in unstable, treacherous territories, situations, and circumstances. This is what masculinity is to bring. Sure-footedness, stability. The next thing is, I want to say this. I posted this picture of the stars of the series that was way back, I believe, in the 70s. I'm almost sure it was the early 70s, of Roots. And it's a picture of the main characters. And in the middle, you have John Amos, who is Kunta Kinte. Then you have Kizzy, and I can't remember Cicely Tyson on one side, when he's leaning on the man, John Amos. John Amos standing here in the middle with them leaning on his shoulders. Why? Why? Because that speaks symbolically of sustainability, of strength, of power. The ability to sustain and to carry, to uphold under weightiness. It's important that men have broad shoulders. Masculinity has broad shoulders. Now, broad shoulders don't necessarily mean big old built shoulders, but it means understanding what shoulders bring, understanding what broad shoulders mean. The next thing is strong hands. Strong hands to withstand with durability and sustainability, to push back against that which would cause one to retreat, to fight, to handle, to maintain a position in the face of contrariness, doubt, judgment, and resistance. The hands hold on. grasp, hold with force. That's what masculinity brings. That's what masculinity. You have to be designed this way. Okay? Not everyone is it's not designed this way. But and everyone, every man, all masculine are built this way, but some have not realized that these are in their CPU. And it needs to come out. And so we're going to show you how to do that. Now, the next thing that I think is very important as far as masculinity in retrospect to gender build is a durable chin. Durable chin talks about the ability to endure, withstand hard hits, shaking hits that would shake you to your core, hits that will shake the way you think about things. But you've got to be able to take a punch. You've got to be able to take a punch. The only way that you can take that punch is through purpose. If you understand and know what your purpose is, that durable chin will be there. It's a part of masculinity. Knowing purpose is, and we'll get to it. The next thing is the bicep. You know, we see pictures of the bicep, and the bicep demonstrates strength, power, and force. Strength, power, and force. And in that strength, power, and force, it also demonstrates the ability to withstand, again, to hold, to push, whatever necessary. And lastly, reproductive system. The masculinity calls for having a masculine reproductive system. Why is that important? Because it's for sustainability of humanity, survival, planning, seed carrier or seed planner, and for visionary. All of these are aspects of reproduction. Now, some final thoughts that I want to relate relative to this idea of masculinity. Now, these may not be popular with a lot of people, but I'm still going to say it. Masculinity leads, it doesn't follow. It directs, it isn't directed. It insists and doesn't fold under pressure. Masculinity is seed carrying, which means it's visionary. Visionary is very critical to understanding masculinity. My question to you, gentlemen, that are listening to me, what is it that you see? Because that's what a visionary does. A visionary sees something. That thing that you see and continue to see or have always seen is critical to why you're here. What is it? What is it that you see yourself doing that's legal, lawful, and scientific? So if you are doing things that bring harm to others, that cannot be your vision. That cannot be your vision. Visionaries lead by vision, by what has been seeded into them pre-birth. Okay, because there's been something downloaded in you before you were born. You were sent here to do something, and in order for you to do it, it had to be in you before you came to do it. Now you have to rediscover it. And that's what we do at Purpose Sphere. We help you to rediscover purpose. Now, I'm going to say something now that's going to probably shake some folks up. You're not going to like this. not gonna like this, but that's okay. I love you. That's why I'm doing it. This whole idea of being a provider and protector is a notion. Men have been fed this European idea that we are to be providers and protectors. Well, it's easy when you have the wherewithal in yourself to easily do that, especially financially. But it's important to understand that this idea, this notion of provider protector, is actually a concept that is used to justify and to promote misogyny and chauvinism. It promotes, now you hear me, the reason it does is it makes the man and puts him in a position that the creator did not intend. It puts him and makes the woman dependent upon him, when in all actuality, we are dependent on each other. But the way that this provider protector notion goes, it makes him seem like he is above, with this notion of having to protect and to provide. So what are you saying, G? Are you saying that men aren't to provide? Are you saying that men aren't to protect? No, I'm not saying that at all. Here's what I'm saying. True provision and protection comes as a result of one realizing and activating your individual purpose. Because in your individual purpose resides provision and protection. In your purpose resides provision and protection. Now, some of us will say, well, my father did this and did that. Well, that's fine and good. But I would say this to you. The notion of men being what they're not supposed to be has driven many men to a premature death. Many of our women are widows because of a man who did not understand that purpose is the provision, the provider, and the protector. But he's taking those weighty weights on his own shoulders when they're not meant for him. And as a result, he goes to an early grave. Our protection and provision is found in purpose and nowhere else, not even in God. Did you hear what I said? I didn't stutter. Your provision and your protection is in your purpose, not even in God. Now, religious people will argue that. And that's fine. But I still hold to that truth. Wow, there's so much more to do, but I'm gonna have to let you. Should I continue? We've been going for an hour. We're going to continue. How about that? We're going to continue. I'm going to finish this because I want to start on the other aspect in our next broadcast. I want to talk real briefly about toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity. Now, we use that term toxic masculinity, but and I think I mentioned it already, it's really not masculinity at all. What it is a feeble, selfish, and corrupt attempt to control and dominate others. That's what it is. Toxic masculinity. And it shows up as it shows up as misogyny, as chauvinism. So it shows up that way. And this was never meant to be the reason. This was never the reason that humanity was sent, to try to dominate other people. Anytime that people are dominated, I'm going to get to that in a minute. There are some that are intimidated by the notion of proper masculinity. Some people don't like the idea of proper masculinity. And the reason that they don't like it is because masculinity, as taken from them, something that they desire. They think that masculinity takes from them, that they want, desire, or aim to have. They think that masculinity is the bully, is the father who is the bad father. But it's not. It's not. Masculinity is none of those things. But here we're talking about toxic masculinity. So what are some of the results of toxic masculinity, as we call it? The Creator never meant for people to dominate other people, but to influence and to dominate their environment, surroundings, and areas of influence. That's purpose. Domination of people will always result in uprisings, revolt, and resistance, because domination of people isn't why humans are here. Chauvinism and misogyny has resulted in the rise of feminists, anti-patriarchal movements, beta malehood. We're going to talk more about that, because beta malehood is a part of malehood, and we're going to talk about the whole idea of malehood, and simphood, which is a part of malehood as well, or the desertion of the desire to be masculine by males being raised by females who don't understand masculinity, and by boys who don't have proper masculine examples in their lives. This is what toxic masculinity has resulted in. A mess. A mess. But what's the answer? There's always an answer. The thing is finding the answers. The answer to toxic masculinity, the proper masculinity to be identified, for proper masculinity to be identified, recognized, and asserted, a male must come to realize the most critical equation. There's a critical equation that I'm going to give you. You got to get this. It's important. You might want to write this one down. This equation is imperative to the development of man's domination over his surroundings, environment, and area of influence. We call this equation the dominion mandate, and it follows as such. Here it is. Knowledge plus understanding plus implementation equals wisdom. Knowledge plus understanding and implementation equals wisdom. Wisdom actually means wise dominion. Wise dominion. So how do we implement these principles, these ideas, these concepts that I just rattled off? Let me explain it a little bit. What is knowledge? Knowledge is the manifestation of the mindedness. See, when we came here with a mindedness, a set of knowledge. And this knowledge came from the mindfulness of the Creator. Mindfulness has in it mindedness of everything. But all you get is one area of mindedness handed to you as a means of a work to do or a purpose. But you've got to find what it is. So knowledge is a specific branch of standard operating procedures. It's the way something operates. It's the way it's done. And when you have that, you don't need to be taught by anyone. You already know.
They'll wonder why. How do you know that? Because you're wired that way to know it. It's in your CPU. It came here with you, and it's like you're in your environment because you are. You are in your environment. Okay, so this is an acute awareness and knowing of the scientific method, data, statistics, results, and outcomes of a given branch of knowledge. There's something you know. And the thing that you know is something that is needful in your community, culture, or clan. I'm getting over in some of the other stuff, but that's okay. We'll come back. We'll come back to this. Okay, so that's knowledge plus understanding. Why is understanding so critically important? Understanding is one being so intimate with possessing knowledge that they stand under. You know the term to understand? To understand means you stand under something. When you understand something, you stand under it. When you stand under it, that means I'm willing to let it fall. I'm willing, whatever the results are, I'm willing to stand under this knowledge because I have that intimate of a relationship with it. That's purpose. You've got to find and know purpose and understand, or to stand under your purpose. Plus implementation. So you can know something and understand it, and it does no good. It does no good. But if implementation is putting into action the knowledge that you understood. If you know something and you have understanding, it should invoke action, implementation. This equation of the dominion mandate must be realized and implemented in the lives of both boys and girls, but especially boys. Now, that may sound sexist, but always understand equal, but not the same. Equal, but not the same. The reason that this is so is because boys hold a visionary aspect in the dominion mandate's fulfillment. Boys are visionaries. They always see something. They're built that way. And I'm not saying girls don't. We're going to get to the feminine part. We're going to get to the femininity part. And you're going to see the importance, the equality in importance of the female or femininity. Now, how do we, because so many have lost their way and don't understand masculinity because of the way that they were raised and because of societal pressures. How do we increase our masculine polarity? How do we get back to it? I'm going to give you 6 things that you need to implement. You want to write these down? You want to write these down? The first thing that you have to do, well, maybe 7. We'll keep it at 6. The first one is to rediscover your individual purpose. You must find out why you're here. Now, people are going to say, my purpose is my passion. It's not. Your purpose has nothing. Your purpose is not your passion. I'm going to explain that at another time. The difference between purpose and passion, but they're not the same. But when I hear people say that they are doing their passion, that doesn't mean anything. Well, it does, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. But we'll talk about it. So the first thing is to rediscover individual purpose. Number 2, to learn about purpose. You need to learn about purpose. I've been talking about purpose for decades. Decades. I didn't just start this. I didn't. Some of you think I did, and I'm just a troublemaker trying to stir up things. No. I want you to think, because the way that you have been thinking isn't the only way to think. Anyway, so number one is to rediscover individual purpose. Number two, learn about purpose. Number three, activate purpose or implement purpose. Remember we talked about that, implementation? Okay? Because in the learning piece is the knowledge plus the understanding, and the activation is the implementation. Now, what does that equal? Wisdom. Wisdom is a conjunction that actually means wise dominion. Wise dominion actually means ruling in your area of influence, your surroundings and environment with purpose. Okay. The next thing, the next thing is to define or redefine masculinity. You have to understand what masculinity is and isn't. I just talked a little bit about masculinity, but there's so much more that I could talk about. Excuse me. Again, it's important in these days and time that you hydrate. Okay. Cranberry juice is very important. Helps you. Okay. And the next thing, number 5, is to engage in robust activities and endeavors. Why? Well, for masculinity needs to be agitated. Okay. And there's certain things that you can do physically, mentally, whatever it takes for you to agitate your masculinity. You need to find what that is and do that on a regular basis. Drum it up, stir it up, get it moving. And the last thing I'm going to mention tonight is that you need to embrace your design, mission, and assignment. We'll talk more about design, mission, and assignment on the other channel, Purpose Sphere. Okay. Purpose Sphere. And so I'm hoping that you got something from this. Again, if you would, depending on what platform you're on, would you share, like, and hit the notification so that you'll know other things that we have coming down the pipe, other content. I have a lot. I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to help those that would hear. That's all. And if it's not you, fine. It's okay. Okay. But for those that would hear me, I'm here for you. And I'm going to connect where you can go for some more information in the description below so that you can contact me. And I'm hoping that you would share this with other people so that we can get more people involved. But that's fine. I'm going to do this no matter what. If I'm all by myself, I'll still do it. I'll still do this. Because it's not about who will or won't. It's just doing what you're supposed to be doing. Doing what you were sent here to do. Just being obedient to the design, mission, and assignment given you. That's what this is for me. Well, I appreciate you coming in and stopping in and being with me. I really do. I couldn't do this without you. And I'm appreciative to each and every one of you. I want you to contribute what it is that you have been meant to contribute. You're not an accident. You're not a mistake. You are an intentional idea. And there's something for you to do. So let's get busy. Peace.